Welcome to Voices. I am your hostess, Siobhan Sherman, and this is a production of the Atlantic Caribbean Union of Seventh-day Adventists. We proudly represent the islands of the Bahamas, Cayman Islands, and Turks and Caicos Islands. Church family. I am certain that some of you would have thought that ADRA, ADRA, stood for Adventist Disaster Relief Agency or Association, just like me. However, on today's episode, we will be telling you exactly what ADRA stands for. The Adventist Development Relief Agency. So that's what ADRA stands for. And ADRA is the global humanitarian organization of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Thus far, we are in 130 countries, and irrespective of your religious beliefs, ethnicity, or political affiliations, this particular organization of this church seeks to help you. Here in studio with us today, just to tell us a bit more about this wonderful organization, is our Union's Director, Pastor Leonardo Rahming. Pastor Rahming, welcome to Voices.
Thank you so much, Siobhan. It's a joy to be here today.
Now, Pastor, as I would have said, many of us aren't familiar with ADRA, but we also have some persons who may not be familiar with you at this moment. And so for the sake of those, just give us a synopsis as to who Pastor Leonardo Rahming is, your ministry, and of course your family.
Okay, good. My name is Leonardo Rahming, as you have been told already, and I presently pastor two churches in the South Bahamas Conference, the Johnson Park and Gambia churches. I also work here at the Union office as the Sabbath School Director and ADRA Directors. And so we have been very, very busy in that regards. I am married to the wonderful Pauline Nee Johnson, and she is a primary school teacher who comes alive when she gets around little kids. Mm-hmm. I don't know how she does it, but she just simply bubbles with joy as she deals with those little ones. And together God has blessed us with one little daughter. Yeah. And she is the apple of my eye at this time in terms of the little joy that we have. Mm-hmm. Her name is Davincia, and they are enjoying their summer vacation together.
Oh, they are?
They are. Because they are off from work, you know.
That's true.
She don't have to go to school, and then she don't have to go to work, and so they are home enjoying themselves.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, Pastor, as I would have said, many of our viewers, I am certain, we're familiar with the term ADRA, but we're not quite familiar as to what exactly ADRA does. Okay. I've come to understand that ADRA partners with community organizations as well as governments, and ADRA is able to improve the life or the quality of life of millions through certain impact areas. Okay. I need you to explain to us what exactly those 9 impact areas are, please. Okay.
Just before I get there, Siobhan, the challenge that we have, first of all, just like you said earlier in your introduction, when we look at ADRA, a lot of persons don't know what ADRA even is, mm-hmm. right? And growing up in the church, I didn't even know what ADRA was. And so as I began to become exposed to ADRA, I began to understand more in depth that ADRA does the work that God really requires of us, okay? And when I say that, I mean that ADRA preaches the gospel. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't just get on the pulpit and preach the gospel. Mm-hmm. We meet people's needs. We try to develop people's lives. We want to develop communities. And so that is why ADRA is really referring to the Adventist Development Relief Agency. We want to bring relief to humanity. Okay. The truth is that since sin came into this world, we have a lot of suffering. We have a lot of sin and a lot of suffering and heartaches and pain. And so ADRA tries to make the lives of human beings, mm-hmm. and notice what I said, human beings, yes. Okay, better by just helping them. And so that's so important. When you talk about the 9 impact areas now, you're talking about areas like social justice. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we don't look at the downtrodden, those who can't defend themselves, those who are marginalized because of their ethnicity or because of their nationality. Mm-hmm. ADRA tries to stand up for them because they can't stand up for themselves, where they can't get certain things that every human being ought to get. ADRA tries to stand up for them. And then ADRA deals with disaster response. So you will have persons who are going through issues like fires destroying their homes and their communities, and hurricanes and tornadoes and cyclones and all of these other things. And so ADRA tries to come to the aid of these persons in this regard. Then ADRA also tries to help people to economically grow. Okay?
It does.
Yes. So communities that are impoverished, ADRA will go into those communities and try to help the individuals in those communities how to grow for themselves by forming small businesses, and so that they can help themselves and help their neighbors, etc. ADRA also has an affinity towards children. Okay? You know, Jesus says in one part of the scriptures that we ought to be careful what we do to these little ones. Okay? And so ADRA looks out for the children more than anybody else, because a lot of children come into the world and they are treated in ways that they ought not to be treated, and they are not properly given the things that will prepare them for the world. And so ADRA tries to deal with those persons who are more vulnerable, those children who are more vulnerable, and help them to grow. Then ADRA tries to help in the area of gender equality.
Really?
Gender equality, yes.
Okay.
ADRA doesn't want us to doesn't want to seem as though we're just so chauvinistic that we only deal with one type of gender. Okay, we have to look out for all persons, and we have to make sure that all persons are needs are being met. And so ADRA looks into that also. And then when we ADRA also look in the area of community health. We want the communities in which we live to be healthy. We don't want to be drinking sewer water. We don't want to be eating malnourished foods. We want to make sure that whatever we eat, whatever we drink, we want to make sure that it's top quality. So we try to make sure that persons drink the best, eat the best, etc. ADRA also deals with water sanitation and hygiene. Okay, because you have some communities where you go, they don't have a proper running system where they can have water to drink, clean water to drink. Some of the water that they have to drink have a lot of insects and bugs, etc. inside it, and this contaminates the water. Okay, sometimes it has even feces and it contaminates the water. So ADRA goes into these communities and build water osmosis plants and try to make sure that water is proper, drinking water is there, so that people can have this water to drink. By the way, you would know that our bodies are made of practically all water.
Yes.
Okay? And so water is necessary for us to live. And so as a result of that, ADRA wants the water to be sanitized so that you will not only be able to drink the water, but that you will be able to bathe with the water. Okay? So ADRA wants you to have clean water available, readily available to all communities, because our bodies are practically made of water. And so we need water for drinking and water for bathing. Okay?
Definitely.
Yes. And so ADRA also deals with the whole matter of hunger and nutrition. Okay? One of the things that you would understand is that the world is having a hard time feeding itself. Believe it or not. And the reality is that food is so powerful, because who has the food has the wealth.
They have the
Okay?
power.
And so as a result of it, they will have the power to do a lot of stuff. Okay? Because people want food to eat. And so ADRA goes around to different communities, various communities, educating people how to provide for themselves, how to develop themselves and provide good, wholesome, nutritious food. Okay? And so that's very important. And then when we talk about ADRA also helps in the area of agriculture. How do you grow the little corn? How do you produce a chicken? How do you produce eggs? How do you get the goats and the sheep? And how do you produce come up with the carrots and the lettuce and the tomatoes? These things have to be grown if we want to feed our people. And so ADRA has a way of helping people everywhere to grow and to produce things for themselves. Not only do we want to produce things for ourselves, but we want to be in a position where we can sell these things so that we can become business owners.
Okay. Okay. So those are our 9 impact areas.
Impact areas.
What I love about this whole program is that we learn so much as a community. And I think that the viewers as well as myself would have learned that ADRA is far more than just disaster relief.
That's right.
The reason why, though, we think about disaster relief so much within our particular union is because we are on the hurricane belt.
That's correct.
And as of June 1st, I think it was, the hurricane season began.
That's correct.
And so for the purposes of today, we will focus on disaster relief.
Yes.
And because we are in this season now, what would you say to viewers within our union, the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, and Cayman Islands during this entire hurricane season? What tips could you possibly provide to us?
Well, as we look at the whole matter of disaster, we do not have a map to say that disaster will not come to us. Everybody will experience some type of disaster sometime or another. One of the things that you would want to understand is that as we are in the hurricane belt, which means that we are right in line. Whenever a hurricane is passing from the east to the west, or from the east or from the south to the north, it's going to somehow impact our islands. And so when I think about that, the first thing is that we need to be prepared. We need to be prepared. Now, typically, persons in our area, our zoning, we don't like to prepare on time.
Oh, no.
We don't like that, okay? We are last-minute persons, okay? But the reality is that as we look at ADRA, ADRA teaches us that we must always be prepared. When I talk about being prepared, what do we mean? You must make sure not only have money in the bank, but you must make sure have money secured outside the bank so you can have it readily available to you, okay? Put it in some place very close that is available to you. You must have drinking water that you can, or clean drinking water that you can use readily whenever necessary, so that you can drink, so that you can bathe, so that you could even have something to share with somebody else.
And to cook.
And to cook. You see, all that is important because you got to eat. Okay? And then you must make sure that your pills and your medication, all of that is taken care of, is properly secured. Your documents, like your passports, your national insurance card, or your social security card, or all of these things are properly secured. You want to put them in a safe location so that if water were to come, it would not destroy these documents, because you need these documents in case you need to travel.
That's correct.
Or in case you need to get out of the country quickly. So you need to make sure that everything is secured. So that's when I talk about preparation. It is always good to have canned goods. Now, I am not one who is big on canned goods because of all the preservatives and all that kind of stuff. But the reality is that when in times like these, we need to make sure that we have a few products that we can really count on, that we know if electricity goes or if our water goes, that we have something that we can live on and we can still survive for a little while.
That's right.
Okay? So it's always good to have some good canned stuff, like your peanut butter. The staple.
That's good stuff.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay? And then you want to have like your jam, and you have your spaghetti, or whatever the case is. I don't know. It depends on what you, but just have something good there that you can just easily open up, and you can cook, and you can eat without having to go through all that stuff. Because sometimes the stove don't work.
Yeah.
Okay? And sometimes we are away from electricity for a week, 2 weeks,
Yes.
So you want to be prepared. And then as you think of preparedness, you want to make sure that your home is secured. Wherever you live is secured. If you're renting, make sure that your landowner or your landlord protects the home properly. If it's your home, make sure that the roof is not leaking anywhere before the hurricane begins. Make sure that you have everything in place. You know where everything is. You have battery-powered radios so that you can get the news and you can listen to what is going on. These are things that are vitally important to make sure that you are prepared. So I tell people what to do in terms of in this season. Be prepared.
Be prepared.
Be prepared.
Boy.
That's the best thing to do.
Okay, so we need to ensure that we have our canned goods.
That's right.
We need to ensure most certainly that we have our water.
That's right.
Sufficient water. I don't know how many gallons. I'm sure we can Google this.
That's right.
In the technology, in this age that we're in, gallons per person for bathing and drinking, etc.
Yes.
We have to have our funds,
That's
as
right.
you said,
That's right.
secured.
Secured.
We have to have our medications for those of us who have who need to take those. Enough supply, I think, usually for a week, I
that's
think
right.
I would have read.
That's right.
And then sometimes to...
Make sure you have gas in your vehicle.
That's true.
You don't want to go on the road just without gas. So make sure you have gas in your vehicle. So it has to do with preparedness.
That's
Make sure that
very
you have
true.
gas in your vehicle and fill the tank. Don't just put $10 in
$10
there.
ain't gonna
No,
work.
it's not going to work.
Oh, man.
Fill the tank because you don't know what can happen. Okay? And you need to make sure that you are absolutely 100% prepared for it.
Okay, you're also a pastor. You're our ATQ ADRA director. And I'm going to dig more a bit into that, but we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned. We will be right back.
Hi, I'm Pastor Peter Joseph, Executive Secretary of South Bahamas Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. I want to share with you a passage of Scripture. It's found in Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. We live in a world today that requires a lot of faith. The fact is, a lot of people are worrying about a whole lot of things. And worry is creating a lot of stress. People are dying every day. I want to provide an alternative. Faith. Faith in God. The scripture says that faith is substance, meaning faith has foundation. When you have faith, you have a solid foundation. The substance of things hoped for, meaning faith is about moving forward. So, you're on a foundation and you keep moving forward. And then it says the evidence of things not seen, meaning that if you have faith, you will keep looking up. For the God to whom you look will one day bring into reality what you don't see. So stop stressing out yourself today. Stop worrying. Get your eyes on God. Exercise some faith. You exercise faith today, you have foundation. You can keep moving forward, no matter how difficult it is, and keep looking up. And God is going to bring into reality what you don't see. Exercise some faith today.
Welcome back to Voices. I'm your hostess, Siobhan Sherman, and today we have the Atlantic Caribbean Union's Director for ADRA, the Adventist Development Relief Agency, Pastor Leonardo Rahming. Pastor Rahming, I'm going to stress that one more time. Pastor Rahming, prior to our break, you would have given us the 9 impact areas.
Yes.
You would have given us, of course, for ADRA, you would have also given us tips on how to be prepared. Now, the reason why I'm stressing pastor is because there is a spiritual aspect, or rather a role that I think pastors within our union play in ensuring that the membership is prepared and takes these possible acts of nature quite seriously. And so I need you at this very moment to please encourage your brethren, your members, your parishioners to take it seriously.
You know, Siobhan, I thank you for this opportunity just to share with the membership in general on taking disaster seriously, because it's so vitally important. One of the challenges we have is, especially in our locale, and when I talk about our locale, I'm talking about Turks and Caicos, Cayman, Grand Bahama, which is north area, and then you also have the southern Bahamas. One of the challenges we have in our union is that we are very laid-back individuals, right? And we don't take things seriously until it actually hits. And it's vitally important for us, for our leaders especially, to lead their congregations and lead the constituencies and letting them know that we ought to take hurricanes seriously, because it brings a lot of pain and disaster when you're not prepared, when you're suffering after hurricane and calls are being made and you can't find somebody, or no food is coming to the island and you have to travel this distance. It is painful. And so it's very vital, it's very important that we take time to educate our members, because one of the chief type of disasters that we have in this particular area is hurricanes. Okay? And so we have to be very careful. We have to be very careful to make sure that our members are vitally prepared. And I'm stressing that you have to be prepared. Preparation comes before anything happens. If you're not prepared, you're going to find yourself in a lot of problem afterwards.
Fail to plan, plan to fail.
That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen.
Now, I recognize the fact that we are very much accustomed to hurricanes, but I also recall in your explanation of one of the impact areas being disaster relief, you spoke about cyclones and tornadoes.
Yes.
I think those are also things that we have to start considering within our union as well, because strange things are happening everywhere.
Everywhere.
And so I think it's also good for us to keep in mind that when we do hear these different calls from our national agencies, if we do have those, that we have to take those seriously as well.
Yes.
Just because we're not accustomed to something doesn't mean it can't happen.
Yeah. You know, as we come to the close of time, and as we come to the time when Jesus is about to come, a whole lot of natural disasters that we can't explain, they're going to be happening. But we're going to see stuff like earthquakes. We're going to see things like hurricanes. We're going to see tornadoes. We're going to see cyclones. We're going to see mudslides and lands just moving out of this place. A whole lot of things are going to be happening. We need to be prepared. And I guess one of the things that I need to emphasize here is not only being prepared physically, but being prepared spiritually. Because we don't even know what's going to happen. We can't say what exactly is going to happen. But if you and I are prepared spiritually and physically, and we have our ducks lined up in place, everything is going to work out somehow or another.
In Jesus' name, amen.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen.
Yes. So, Pastor, whether we like it or not, there is a great possibility that something might happen. I don't want to say a hurricane, but something might happen that may cause ADRA to come into full disaster relief mode. And so what exactly does that mean for us?
Okay.
What is the role of ADRA after a hurricane or some disaster occurs?
Whenever disaster occurs, ADRA has a first wave, a first team that goes in. And after the all clear has been given by the National Disaster Agency, ADRA goes in along with different organizations like the Red Cross, like the humanitarian organizations, and do an assessment. You can't know what you're helping if you don't assess properly.
True.
Okay? And so the first thing we do is that we do a proper assessment. We see who is in need of clothing, who is in need of food, who is in need of water, what are the needs in this area, okay? That is how we operate. So once ADRA has done its assessment and we know exactly how many persons we're dealing with, how many communities we're dealing with, what are the needs of these communities, how are we going to help them, then we can go in and access our resources to meet their needs, okay? And so once that team is finished assessing, another team moves in to meet the needs of those persons, okay? And so we meet those needs. For instance, if you have let's say, because this is what is known to us in this part of the world, if we have hurricanes that come and take out the electricity, stop all running water, etc., we need to now move in as quickly as possible within 24 hours to bring some type of relief to those persons in that community. So we'll carry food, we'll carry water, but that's after the assessment has been done. Okay? So once the assessment is done and we met the needs of those persons, then we can go back and evaluate to make sure that whoever required any such item, they got it and it went in the right direction.
That's true.
Because the reality is now, you must understand that ADRA receives a lot of donations and funds from people who are not a part of the Seventh Adventist Church. And so that means we have to be accountable to them.
That's right.
So if we're going to be accountable, we have to make sure that whatever the purpose the money was scheduled for, it is properly used in that area, so that when we write our report, we give the proper accounting, and they can see that we have done due diligence in doing what they have asked us to do.
Pastor, I love the fact that accountability seems to be a big thing
Yes.
in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. It's rarely seen,
Yes.
but I love the fact that we have that here. And I do recall even last year during the hurricane season, ADRA, I think, was one of the first persons on the ground to provide assistance, not just in the Bahamas, but I clearly recall in the Turks and Caicos Islands as
That's
well.
correct. That's correct.
The Pathfinders, I think, were a part of it,
That's
correct?
correct. That's correct.
Okay, so now that I've brought in that part, you need helpers, you need hands, you need workers in the vineyard. And so how can we assist, not just by providing donations, because that, of course, is essential.
Yes.
But how else can we assist?
Well, let's start there first of all, Siobhan. In terms of assisting, we need to donate to ADRA, okay? Because the truth is, if we have an open mind that there are others who may be less fortunate than we are, and we can help, you need an organization who can manage your resources and manage your gifts so that others can be blessed by it. Okay? Sometimes if we just give it out the way we want to give it out, we may not properly give it out in the right person, in the right areas.
That's true.
Okay? But I want people to understand that ADRA is an organization that can be trusted. When you say to ADRA that this is what I want to be done with it, that's exactly what's going to happen. ADRA is not going to do anything else different from what you desire to be done with it. Okay, so we need resources. We need you to give your monies to ADRA. Okay, we need you to put ADRA in your will and say, I am leaving this for ADRA.
Oh, you're putting that out there right now.
Put it right out there.
Okay.
That's what we need. We need you to also volunteer your time to help develop ADRA. Okay, presently at the union level, ADRA has one person. Okay, but the reality is that all of us can be a part of ADRA. So when there's a hurricane, we need persons to volunteer to be a part of it so that they can work and help ADRA develop properly.
That's true. And so, Pastor, as we begin to close, I really just want to synthesize a lot of what you would have said. So first and foremost, I think it's important for our viewers to recognize that this is both a developmental or development building agency.
Yes.
It's not just solely about disaster relief, but about building the human, the spiritual, the physical, as well as community service.
That's correct.
The impacts that you have is throughout more than 130 countries.
That's correct.
So this is an international network.
Yes.
This is a humanitarian network.
That's right.
And so we are givers, is what
That's
you're
right.
saying, ADRA.
Givers.
I just want to continue putting it out there, all the beautiful
Yes.
things that
That's
ADRA
right.
has to offer. You have key impact areas, 9.
Yes.
Some of which include children, hunger, disaster relief,
Social justice.
injustice,
That's
exactly,
right.
gender
Yes.
equality,
Gender equality. That's right.
agriculture,
That's right. And even disaster relief.
and disaster relief, exactly.
We're out there and we're in the community and people are seeing us. In fact, I'll tell you, we had a training seminar that was put on by the National Emergency Agency of the Bahamas to help prepare all humanitarian organizations in terms of preparedness for ADRA, for disaster, what's coming on. And ADRA happened to be a part of that. Okay, so we need volunteers, we need volunteers, we need volunteers, we need hands. Many hands make the work light.
Pastor, I think that is the highlight or a great way for us to end this segment. Ladies and gentlemen, please give your hands, your time, your donations to ADRA. It is greatly needed to serve your people, your family, and maybe even yourself one day. As I'm reminded, you can't beat God-giving no matter how hard you try. This has been a production of the Atlantic Caribbean Union of Seventh-day Adventists, proudly representing the Isles of the Bahamas, Cayman Islands, and Turks and Caicos Islands.